Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I was married to my husband for 25 years before he passed away in a tragic accident. He was the love of my life, the father of our 3 children, very intelligent man, and a very successful businessman. When he died, he left behind a sizable estate that was split equally among our children. The will was clear. Everything went to me and the kids. There was no indication that anyone else was in the picture. For years, we lived under the assumption that this was his only family. Then, about 6 months ago, my cousin, who I haven't spoken to much in recent years, reached out. She's seriously ill and in hospice care. She wanted to meet, and given her condition, I thought it was the decent thing to do. I had no idea what she was about to tell me. During that visit, she admitted something that left me reeling. Decades ago, before my husband and I were married, they had a brief affair. We weren't married yet, but we were engaged. We were planning our future, and I believed we were fully committed to each other. The fact that this happened during what I thought was a solid and loving engagement just makes it that much more difficult to accept. At the time, my cousin became pregnant, but she never told him, or anyone else in the family, about it. Instead, she let her daughter, who we'll call Lily, believe that another man was her father because she didn't want to ruin my engagement or cause a scandal. But then she dropped another bombshell. She said she wanted Lily to have my husband's estate. He was a very wealthy man, she said. It would be fair that this child gets what's rightfully hers. My daughter is entitled to his inheritance. She was adamant that it was her dying wish for Lily to be included in his legacy. When Lily reached out to me a few weeks later, she was polite and respectful. She thanked me for taking the time to meet her and explained that she had recently learned the truth about her biological father. She asked me about what kind of man he had been and what he had been like as a father. She seemed genuinely interested in who he was and how he had lived. But then she brought up the inheritance. She asked whether she would be able to receive part of it, saying that she didn't want to cause trouble, but felt it was only fair since she was also his child. It was clear she was still trying to process the shock after her mother revealed such a secret. I was already feeling overwhelmed, trying to balance my anger and hurt with my sense of what was right. But then Lily let something slip that shocked me even more. While we were talking about how this secret had stayed hidden for so long, she casually mentioned that everyone knew about her. I was confused at first. "What do you mean everyone knew?" I asked. "Well," she said hesitantly, "Dad knew about me, and so did his parents. They just never told you." Hearing those words felt like another slap in the face. I thought back to what my cousin had told me. She had said that my husband never knew about Lily, that she had kept it from him all these years to avoid causing trouble. But now Lily was telling me something entirely different. Not only had my husband known, but his parents had also been aware. This wasn't just a hidden affair from decades ago. It was a long-standing deception that had involved multiple people in his family. My cousin had lied to me, even on her deathbed. She had begged me to ensure Lily got what she was entitled to, all while continuing to twist the truth. I felt deeply conflicted. On one hand, I was angry at my cousin for hiding this, for lying, angry at my husband for whatever role he played in it, and angry at the whole situation. On the other hand, I couldn't blame Lily. She hadn't asked for this. She was an innocent party, just like my kids. She had spent her whole life not knowing the truth, and now she was trying to piece together her identity. I understood her desire for clarity, even if it made everything more difficult for me. After a lot of sleepless nights, I came to a decision. My husband's estate was meant to provide for his children. As much as it hurt to admit, Lily was his child. She wasn't a stranger, and she wasn't an outsider. She was his daughter too, even if none of us knew it until now. It felt wrong to ignore that. I knew this wouldn't be an easy conversation, but I felt it was the right thing to do. I decided to tell my kids the truth. When I sat them down, I explained everything. I told them what my cousin had revealed, what Lily had said, and why I felt we needed to include her in their dad's legacy. I told them that I understood this would come as a shock, that it wasn't fair to them, and that it wasn't fair to Lily either. I said that we couldn't change the past, but we could try to make things right now. I said that Lily was innocent in all of this and that she deserved to be acknowledged. My kids were furious. They said I had no right to make that decision, that I was taking away what was rightfully theirs. My eldest son, who's always been protective of his siblings, went off on me. He said it wasn't their fault that my husband had made a mistake, and they shouldn't have to pay for it. He said that Lily had never been part of our family and had no claim to anything. My daughter said that I should have kept it to myself, and I can share my inheritance with her father's affair child if I'm so altruistic. I tried to reason with them. I said I wasn't trying to take anything away from them. I was trying to do what I believed their father would have wanted. I told them that this wasn't about punishing them or rewarding Lily. It was about doing the right thing. But they wouldn't hear it. They said I was siding with a stranger over my own children. The argument got so heated that they stopped speaking to me for days. Every time I tried to reach out, they either ignored me or shut me down. They wouldn't listen to any explanation I gave. They feel like their father's memory has been tarnished, like everything they knew about him was a lie. And I can't blame them for feeling that way, because I feel it too. But I can't pretend this never happened. I can't just sweep it under the rug and leave Lily out in the cold. She's part of this family, whether we like it or not. So, am I the a-hole? Am I wrong for telling my kids they have to share their late father's inheritance with Lily? I don't think OP is an a-hole here. OP is trying to do what's fair and acknowledge a child who was hidden from OP and OP's kids for years. I get that OP's children are upset. It's a huge shock, and it feels like their father's memory is being tarnished. But it's not OP who is doing that. Also, it's not Lily's fault she was kept a secret. She's just trying to figure out where she fits in this family. Honestly, the real a-hole here was OP's husband, and anyone who knew and kept it from OP. And now let's hear the community's opinion. This is a tough situation, but I think you're doing the right thing. Your kids are obviously emotional right now, which makes sense, but they'll eventually have to understand that their dad had another child. That's not your fault, and it's not Lily's fault either. By recognizing Lily, you're showing that you value fairness and honesty. It may take time for your kids to process, but they'll get there. Look, it's not Lily's fault that your husband and his family lied. It's not your fault either. She has a right to her father's legacy. Your kids are understandably upset, but their anger is misdirected. Maybe you need to give them some space, but don't let their emotions sway you from doing the right thing. You're not taking anything away from them. You're just including someone who should have been part of the picture all along. I can't imagine how hard this must be for everyone involved. It sounds like your cousin and your husband's parents caused most of the damage here by keeping such a huge secret. Your kids probably feel betrayed and hurt, but they need to realize that Lily didn't ask for any of this. She deserves her share. I hope you and your kids can work through this together, but I don't think you're wrong for trying to include her. Update. I have a shocking update for you guys. So, after all the arguments, tears, and accusations, my kids finally calmed down and came to me with a new idea. They said they wanted to get a DNA test done to confirm that Lily was truly their sister. They were willing to share the inheritance if the results proved she was in fact their father's biological child. I was relieved they were finally willing to compromise, and I agreed it was the right step. We went ahead with the DNA test, and when the results came back, surprise, surprise, she's not their sister. It turns out my cousin was lying the whole time. After everything she told me on her deathbed, after all the emotional pain she caused to me and my children, Lily is not my husband's child. My cousin and her husband have always been very poor, and it looks like she made up this whole story in an attempt to guarantee her daughter's financial future. She knew how much wealth my husband left behind, and it seems she was willing to do whatever it took to secure some of it for Lily, even if that meant trashing my husband's memory and putting my family through hell. I'm disgusted. I can't believe she would stoop so low, especially while she's dying. She lied to me, to my children, and to her own daughter, just so she could set her up for a future built on someone else's name and legacy. My kids are relieved, but they're still hurt. The whole ordeal has left scars on all of us. We had to question everything we thought we knew about their father, only to find out it was all a manipulation. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive her for what she's done. I, 15 female, have a stepdad. Let's call him Derry, 59 male. 2 years ago, my dad ended up passing away due to cancer, and he left me an inheritance, college funds, and some jewelry which belonged to my grandma. One of the pieces of jewelry was a ring that my dad would have given to me when I get married, so it's one of my most precious possessions. My mom, 49 female, met her husband half a year after my dad passing and got married just 3 weeks ago, so he's only coming to live with us now. When Derry started living here, all photos of my dad were thrown into the attic, and almost every part of the house that had traces of my father were erased. 2 days ago, after coming back from school, I found out that my ring was missing, and when I asked my stepdad, he told me he sold it since it's old and old-fashioned. I cried a lot, and my mom tried to buy another ring for me to replace it, but none of those models she chose was similar to my ring, plus the emotional value was too great. I was just too angry, so in the middle of the night, I went into their safe box and got his ring. Apparently, this ring was one of the only inheritance he got from his mother after she passed away in Afghanistan. So I have hidden his ring in a place where nobody knows, and he freaked out. Derry asked me if I'd seen it, and I said it was sold, since it's an old piece of metal. He had a mental breakdown, asking me how could I do this, and he's been crying in his room for a whole day, and my mom called me childish and is giving me the cold shoulder. Am I the a-hole? Huh. It's almost like a ring given by a deceased parent is invaluable to the person inheriting it, and devastating to lose, due to someone's callous cruelty. I'm gonna have to go not the a-hole here, because the audacity is beyond me. Not the a-hole. It was only 2 days ago. I'd consider contacting the police. While you may be a minor, your stepdad has no right to steal your possessions, and it may be possible to track the ring back down. Not the a-hole. Your stepdad's a real a-hole. I wonder if your stepdad actually sold it, or if he just took it to take away yet another memory of your dad. You, however, didn't actually sell it. You can sit down with them, return it, and say, see how it feels to have your possessions stolen and sold out from under you. Not the a-hole. Maybe he will understand what it feels like to take away something that means something to someone. To be jealous of a dead person is rather sad, and it's not like you actually did it. So he can still have his stupid ring. Wow, people amaze me. My wife, 28 female, is the oldest of 4 siblings. Her younger siblings are all still in high school, 17 male and 15-year-old twin girls. Her parents had my wife when they were 18 and 19, and then decided to have a bigger family once they got their lives figured out. My wife and I currently live about a 20-hour drive from her parents and siblings, and we haven't seen them in over a year. My wife and I bought our first home earlier this year, so she wanted to host her family for some holidays. We decided on Thanksgiving because we already had plans to go visit my parents for Christmas. However, because of the long drive for my wife's family and their refusal to fly, too expensive, according to her dad, they wanted to stay with us for an extended visit. They didn't want to come for just Thanksgiving weekend. They wanted to stay for 2 whole weeks. When my wife first told me that, I was 100% against it. It's too long of a stay, and our house isn't exactly big enough for 5 extra guests for that long. We only really have 2 guest beds, so at least 2 people would have to sleep on couches or air mattresses every night. Also, I have to wake up at 5:30 a.m. to get to work by 7 a.m. With the way our house is laid out, no matter how quiet I am in the morning, I'm going to make noise within 15 to 20 feet of someone sleeping. However, my wife insisted since she hasn't seen her family in over a year, and she misses them. And with how long they want to stay, getting a hotel or Airbnb is going to be too expensive for them. I voiced all my concerns, but my wife pretty much decided that her family is coming and that she needs me to be supportive and helpful, and it will all work out. Well, her family came on Sunday. It's only been 3 nights, and her younger siblings have been up until 1 or 2 a.m. every night. I've also woken them up every morning when leaving for work. I've tried to be quiet, but even making coffee 20 feet from someone can wake them up. On Monday, I told my wife she needs to talk to her siblings about staying up so late, or that maybe they find a way to all sleep in the bedrooms and not in the living room next to the kitchen. But she told me that her family is on vacation, and they're teenagers, so they're going to stay up late. Nothing changed last night, and this morning I woke up her sisters who were sleeping in the living room. One of them told me to be quiet so they can sleep. I told her that they might be on vacation, but I'm not, and I still need to go to work. Apparently, they told my wife about me being mean to them this morning, and she texted me about how I should be more understanding while they're here. I told her that they need to be understanding that they are impeding on our lives and that we are not on vacation. I told her this is exactly what I said would happen, and she got pissed at me for pretty much saying, "I told you so." She told me it's only been a few days, and I need to change my attitude so I don't ruin her family Thanksgiving. Not the a-hole. Just because your wife's family is on vacation doesn't give them the right to be inconsiderate. Tell the teenagers to get a good long look at how going to work every day works, because this is not a vacation for you. Your wife needs to set boundaries with the teens, or tell them to deal with getting woken up early. Not the a-hole. If a guest in my house has the nerve to tell me to keep it down because they were up late, I'd wake up everyone in the damn house. I'd drop pots and pans, slam doors. You were right to tell your wife beforehand what would happen, so now they have to deal with you being mean. Teenagers told you to quiet down in your own home while you were trying to get ready for work? Dude, you are nicer than I am. Those mouthy brats would be awake at 5:30 a.m. every day. Maybe then they'd be tired enough to go to bed before 1 a.m. and everyone could get some sleep. My older brother and I never really had any sort of relationship. He had his own life when he was pretty young. He married young, and our family, parents and I, barely kept in contact with him. There were no disagreements, fights, etc. He didn't cut us off, but never made any attempts to keep in contact, and always rejected any invitations for family meals, etc. He only hinted a few times that his wife didn't like our family too much. The only time we saw his kid in person was out at a shopping mall by chance. So, over the past few years, my mom's health has worsened, requiring surgery and extra care. I got my folks to move in with myself and my wife as it would be easier on them, along with getting professional care services in the daytime. I've always updated my brother from time to time about the situation, but he has never visited in person and has only sent the odd fruit basket here and there. Recently, I shared with my parents that we were looking to sell our current house to finance an upgrade to a bigger house in a better area. My dad stopped me and said there was no need to, as they were able to finance that as they were selling off some properties they had. My parents were not wealthy. They were middle-class folks who bought some properties while they were dirt cheap. My parents spoke a bit about their plans and said that my brother would be receiving half too. I honestly got pissed off and questioned their decision given his utter lack of existence in the past 20 years. My parents said at the end of the day he is still their son and it is only fair to do so. I said that by giving him half, I'm put at a disadvantage to him given what I had done over the past few years. I told them that I didn't care about his half of the inheritance and asked them to consider donating his half away. I found it extremely insulting to me at the end of the day, valued the same as my brother. One could say value goes beyond monetary items, but I feel that action speaks louder than words. My wife chided me for being so confrontational about it, but I don't know, man. This feels ridiculous. Am I the a-hole? I'm going to say no a-hole. OP doesn't want the money for himself and just felt that brother, who is basically no contact instead of active in the family, doesn't deserve to be treated as family. Understandable feeling. Parents can do and should do whatever they want with their money, and OP needs to realize that as parents, it rarely matters what your child does or doesn't do. We will always look out for and help and try to do right by them. OP's wife gets a shout out for calling husband out in his behavior. You have a good woman there. Had this been an issue of you wanting it all, then without a doubt, I'd tell you to shut the duck up and stop being an a-hole. However, just airing your feelings doesn't make you an a-hole. It makes you human. You have heard their reasons, which they do not owe you, and you've aired your piece. Drop it. No a-hole. As someone who's the primary carer for my parents, I 100% understand the situation and do think your feelings are normal. However, at the end of the day, the property is your parents', and it is up to them to do what they want. If they sold the property and decided to use all the money on themselves, would you be mad? If you are expecting this in return for caring for them, then I would have to say you are the a-hole. Info. It's not super common for a kid to just disappear from their family's lives the day they turn 18. What were the reasons for him doing that to your knowledge? I don't know. My parents said he has been pretty independent since young and just sort of wanted to do his own thing. They've never really interacted much with his wife. The only hints I get at this may be stemming from his wife, where when I bumped into them outside and he would move away from her to speak to me for a few sentences. My brother never had a wedding, just a civil ceremony with their friends apparently. So no, my family have never met his wife in some sort of family setting. It has always been the very few hi-bye stuff. You're the a-hole. He's still their son at the end of the day. It's their money to do with what they wish. Inheritance generally should go on a 50-50 split situations like this, without playing favorites based on who was closer to whom. I can't imagine how your parents must have felt hearing you essentially demand payment retroactively for being involved in their life, on top of all the free money they're already giving you. My brother and his wife just bought a house earlier this year and want to host Thanksgiving at their house this time. Typically I host, and my mom and I do all of the cooking and cleaning, but this year I received a pretty upsetting medical diagnosis. Because of this, sister-in-law said she would host and cook. Every year my mother and father-in-law spend Thanksgiving at our house, as do my parents, brother, sister-in-law, and all of the children. I spoke with my brother about Thanksgiving yesterday and mentioned that my in-laws are excited to see their new house. He said he was excited to have everyone together, especially because he just decorated their house. We made a plan for who was bringing what food. Late last night, my sister-in-law sends me a text saying no offense to me or my in-laws, but that they only want their families to attend. Basically, she was saying my mother-in-law and father-in-law are not invited. I was under the impression that it was the same Thanksgiving we have every year, but moving it to a different house this year, there's no way I can tell my in-laws they aren't invited to Thanksgiving. So now I feel like I have to host a dinner at my house. Hosting, cooking, cleaning up the house, and then attending the gathering at my brother's house will wipe me out. There is no way I can physically do both, so I am not going to my brother's this year. I know he will be upset since it's their new house. Am I the a-hole for not attending Thanksgiving at my brother's? Edited to add, update. My brother called me earlier to say he and his wife talked last night, and she was absolutely against my in-laws attending. She did not have a valid reason. My brother didn't agree with her at all, feels she is being unreasonable, and told her she needed to be the one to tell me they aren't invited, because he was not supporting her decision. He then said he and the rest of the family will be coming to my house and attending Thanksgiving as if it were any other year. They, along with my husband, will be taking over all of the hosting, cooking, and cleaning responsibilities. It sounds like sister-in-law is going to host her family at her home. Sister-in-law and my in-laws are absolutely not strangers. We've spent holidays together as one big family for years, so it is really hard to not feel like she is purposely excluding them. Neither myself, my husband, or my brother can think of any reason she has for doing this, other than to exercise some kind of control over the situation. Not the a-hole. Don't bother going to your brother's house. It is too much given your situation. You can see the house and that family another time. It's their choice to limit attendance, and your non-attendance is the consequence of their choice. Don't cook. Have guests bring the food, or most of it. Order what needs to be filled in, or just order the entire meal. Many restaurants, groceries, and caterers have menus that they sell. Spend your time relaxing and enjoying the company. No a-hole. Your in-laws are not your brother's wife's family, and you are not host this year. Sister-in-law attended without her own family for years, and now wishes to in her new home. Your in-laws can and should have made other plans when you couldn't host. If you extended your in-laws an invitation to your brother and sister-in-law's home, you are the a-hole, as you had no right to, and created this mess yourself as you were not hosting it. Not the a-hole. Wow, sister-in-law is missing the meaning of the holiday. And really, like having 2 more people would impact the menu or amount of cooking. Ridiculous. I'm getting married New Year's Eve. I have my dress already. It's beautiful. It's a white sheath gown and has a floor-length cape. I took my friend Anne, 26 female, with me to buy the dress. I'm not having a bridal party, so she's the closest thing I have to a bridesmaid. My fiancé and her husband work together, and I asked her what she planned on wearing to the company's Christmas party. She said she bought a dress last weekend. I got excited and asked her if I can see it. It's a royal purple bodycon dress with a cape. It has a little bit of bling on the shoulders like mine does. The dress and cape are knee-length, but similar enough. I told her it was pretty, but I got really angry because I feel like she's trying to make it seem like I'm copying her dress style, as my wedding is 2 weeks after the party on New Year's Eve. I asked her not to wear the dress because I don't want people referencing her dress on my wedding day. She said she's wearing it anyway. I asked her to please reconsider. She has a nice figure and can wear anything and make it look good, so she doesn't have to wear the one dress that worked for me. My fiancé said I'm doing the most because the company party is 300 plus people and our wedding is only 115 and nobody will remember. But it really matters to me. Am I being a bridezilla? You're the a-hole and being a bridezilla. You're reading too much into her dress. You don't own a dress style. Besides, it's a completely different color and doesn't even sound bridal. Yes, you're being a bridezilla, and you're the a-hole for asking your friend to wear another dress. What if someone else at the company party is also wearing a dress similar to yours? Are you going to throw a fit? You're also being paranoid. Even if some people from the company party are attending your wedding, you're not Princess Diana, whose every dress was photographed, analyzed, and referenced to see how many times it was worn or who copied it. You're the a-hole. Nobody is going to care. You don't get to call dibs on a gown style, especially when it's a completely different event.